Hi everyone, I hope everyone's doing great. Today, whatever day you're watching this, I've decided to review two movies. If you haven't, obviously you clicked on this video, so you know that. I'm going to talk about two movies I've seen recently, specifically Saw, the fifth Saw movie, and I'm going to talk about The Tragedy of Macbeth, the new Coen Brothers movie. This is what I want to do. I want to pair a modern kind of blockbuster movie with a more indie-ish film that's not quite getting as much attention. I'm assuming you probably more want to hear about Scream, but I'm going to start off talking about Tragedy of Macbeth. The Tragedy of Macbeth follows the play Macbeth, directed by Joel Coen, not Ethan Coen, because Ethan Coen seemingly does not want to direct movies anymore. And it follows the titular character Macbeth, played by Denzel Washington. And you either know nothing about this play, and in that case I won't spoil anything for you, or you know everything, which means I don't need to give you a synopsis, because you already know exactly what happens in it. I don't know how closely this follows the play or not. As I watched it, it feels like a very accurate adaptation, but again, I've never read the original Macbeth. I read Romeo and Juliet and Julius Caesar in high school, but we never read Macbeth specifically. Or maybe I did, because I did recognize things as I was watching it, like the Three Witches and stuff like that, but I couldn't pin down if I specifically had watched this movie or not. Which, probably not the best for a way to start the review. But anyway, I think this is a perfect setup to say that I was definitely not the right audience for this. Now, some background. I love the Coen brothers, specifically Raising Arizona, but in terms of their modern work, I love No Country for Old Men and Burn After Reading. So they're not one of my favorite directors personally. I love their last movie, Ballad of Buster Scruggs, but I've just never put them in my top filmmakers, which might be sacrilege, but that's how it goes. This new movie is, again, only shot by one of them, but you would never know that if you just went into it blind, because it looks utterly beautiful, which is the best thing I can say about this movie, is that it was shot so well. Every frame of this film feels so great, feels so rich. The black and white, the 4:3 aspect ratio. This story you kind of expect to have a grander feel to it, but it feels like the biggest deviation in this film was in terms of tone and in terms of the filmmaking itself. It gives it all a very claustrophobic feel. It gives it a very eerie feel. But this is where I have to turn around and say I did not love this movie. In fact, I really did not like it. And I am totally willing to admit that this might just be my own stupid self, because I just don't really like that. I just can't get past that Shakespearean dialogue. The over fancy, over big words. Watching this movie felt like reading a Shakespeare book in my English class, which for the most part was a very boring, dull experience, which I really wouldn't want to replicate. It sounds harsh, but if it seemed like, I think you can get a general tone if this thing's up your alley or not. And I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not up mine, and I don't feel like I'm ever going to rewatch it again. But I mean, I hope that these guys get to make whatever they want. I'm definitely more in the line of liking things like Ballad of Buster Scruggs over this film, and maybe that's just me. I'm sure people are going to rave about this movie. I hope it makes enough money so that Joel Coen can make whatever movies he wants. It just did not hit the same bar for me as it probably will for other people. I saw another movie though. I saw Scream 5, which is a new horror movie that came out, directed by the people who made Ready or Not, which I have not seen, but I heard is really good. We'll see it one day, probably. And I unfortunately have to say I was not a fan of this movie. And this is coming from someone who loved the first Scream movie. And in terms of my experience with the other movies, I would say I thought the second one was okay, did not like the third one, and I thought the fourth one was pretty good. And I thought it was a pretty good ending for the series. And this movie was not it. It didn't go to the same lengths. If you're going to watch this movie hoping to see returning characters, you're going to be very disappointed, because they're barely in this movie. It focuses on new characters, which I'm fine with, and it's very self-referential to what they're doing, a kind of requel as they say. And the lead actress, played by Melissa Barrera, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. She does a great job with what she's given, but I find her arc in the movie to be a bit confusing. I don't know if they did that, like, I genuinely am confused what the message is supposed to be about her character. It's very weird, to say the least, and kind of gives like a bad taste in my mouth. I enjoyed the villains. It felt like a natural progression for those characters. And in terms of the rest of the new cast, they all did a pretty good job. Specifically, the movie geeks of this movie. This time there's 2 movie geeks. But ultimately, my biggest problem, and this is just, I'm not going to get into it because it's spoilers, but it's just how they end the characters of this franchise. It also just wasn't original. Like, this concept of these meta horror movie ideas that began with Scream is officially tired. Is officially super tired at this point. And just watching this movie just felt like such a drag, especially in like a post-Deadpool world where we're so used to these like breaking the fourth wall, referencing the fact that we're in a movie type things and stuff. And it just becomes annoying to watch, you know, especially because the first movie, Scream, felt so fresh in comparison. And this movie just doesn't have that same flavor, even though it tries to. I cannot with a whole heart recommend it. But, I mean, I feel bad for these directors. These are probably just guys who made a successful indie film and knew that the next step, according to Hollywood, is to direct a commercial film. This is the first project they were offered, and they tried to make it work the best they could, and it just falls flat. And nothing you can do about that. And in fact, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people love it. I honestly don't really know what the critical reaction is to this movie right now. So maybe I'm just totally off base. The film, but yeah, that's my take on the film. Anyway, thank you for watching. Click to subscribe, and please watch more. I don't know where I'm going with this. Just watch more videos. I don't know.